3 reasons why Florida is not cheaper to live there. Well, when you think of Florida, you think of sun, fun, and a great atmosphere. And it's true. To me, in my opinion, Florida is one of the best states in the United States of America. I grew up in New Jersey. I relocated to Florida a few years ago. And America is interesting because it has, 50 different states. Each state has its own personality, its own economics. And part of why people choose Florida is not just the sun and the fun, but also the economics. It played a part in my decision process. One of the first reason why people choose Florida, not just for the sun and fun, but for the economics, is no state income tax. In the United States of America, you have federal tax, and then you have state income tax. Federal income tax is usually anywhere between 20 to 30% for most Americans. And for the middle class Americans, it's really closer to like 18 to 25% of your income gets taxed. That's before deductions. The average effective tax rate for the average American is under 20% after you do all the deductions. Each state decides if they're going to do state income tax in addition to the federal income tax. And Florida is one of the states that decided to do no state income tax, compared to New Jersey, where they have anywhere between a 5 to 6% income tax. So let's say in New Jersey you had a job, you're paying federal income tax around 20%, and you're going to pay state income tax around 6%. So, again, you're going to end up between, 20 to 25% of your income is going to go into taxes. So if you say, well, if I move to Florida, I only have to pay federal income tax around 20% and no state income tax. I saved 6%. That's true. The average American makes $50,000. So how much is 6%? Well, right around $2,500 per year. Okay, so, about a couple $100 a month you save. So is it cheaper then to live in Florida because you got no state income tax? Only if you're retired, living off your investments, or working remotely. Why? Because Florida's pay scale is lower. The pay scale in Florida on average is anywhere between 25 to 30% lower. Meaning that if you lived in New Jersey and you had a job and you were going to do the same job in Florida, you're going to get paid, instead of $50,000, you may only get paid $40,000 in Florida. Okay. So you're going to lose more than 6% income tax. You'd be better off living in New Jersey, paying the state income tax, and still bringing home more on average for the average job. There's exceptions, right? You may get paid more to live in, to have a same job in Florida, and it may be a net win. You may be able to work remotely. You may be retired. But the reason it's not cheaper to live in Florida, the number one reason, is because even though there's no state income tax, the pay scale is lower. So the net effect is you still make less money on average. There are exceptions. But for a big percentage of people, living in Florida only makes economic sense if they're retired, living off investments, or working remotely. Okay. The number 2 reason it is not cheaper to live in Florida is because even though you have cheaper property taxes, you have higher home insurance. Because of the hurricanes and tropical environment, which brings a lot of brutal storms during the rainy season from end of July to the end of October, that hurricane season, home insurance rates are higher. So it's true, if you're going to own property, the property insurances are cheaper, property taxes are cheaper, but the home insurances are higher, so they kind of balance out. So it's not necessarily a net when it's not necessarily less expensive just because you have lower property taxes. A lot of retirees say, hey, look, yeah, I fall in that category. I don't have to worry about lower pay scale because I'm living off Social Security and investments. So I don't want to pay these high property taxes in New Jersey or whatever state they're from. So then they come to Florida, but what they don't realize is that they're going to pay higher home insurance. And they're going to have to deal with maybe evacuating their house once a year, etc. So it could still be cheaper, but you have to really plan, prepare, get quotes on your home insurance before you move for the exact house that you're thinking about purchasing in Florida. Okay. The number 3 reason it is not cheaper to live in Florida is because car insurance. There's no car inspection. So like in New Jersey, every few years you have to get your car inspected to make sure you have proper working brakes, taillights, etc. So you say, that's great. I don't want regulation. I don't want to be restricted by the government. So you make a trade-off. Now you don't have restriction with the government, but you have higher car insurance because there's more accidents in Florida. There's more uninsured drivers in Florida, and driving in Florida is the number one negative about living in Florida. And anyone who's lived in Florida or spent a lot of time, they know that driving down there is a disaster. And it's a brutal place to drive. And the car insurance rates and the car registration, the first time, the initial fee, they offset the fact that you don't have to go get a car inspected once every couple of years. So those are the top 3 things. You got no state income tax, but you got lower pay scale. You got cheaper property tax, but you got higher home insurance. You got no car inspection, but you have higher car insurance. Higher car insurance, higher home insurance, and you're making trade-offs. Florida tends to help those who are retired, living off investments, or working remotely, financially speaking, because of the reasons I have stated. Sometimes, though, I want to end on this. This is very important for those who are still listening, very important. And if you're still listening, you care about doing the research, that's good. If you're going to take a little bit less economically, but gain in quality of life, it's worth it. However, it can't be too much economically. You have to still be able to provide a living and have a surplus and have a budget and live in a nice community. Okay? Because Florida is just like any other state in any other country. There's good parts of Florida and there's bad parts. Okay? So you want to really do your research. You want to visit Florida first. You want to find the areas that are nice, that speak to your personality. You want to understand the good and bad of Florida. You want to understand the economics. And then it'll make your transition of moving more peaceful and more prepared. And you will have positioned yourself for long-term success rather than moving there on an emotional whim because it's the middle of winter and you're tired of the winter. You just move there. You don't do any planning. And then you're going to end up moving back because you're not really thinking this thing through. And as I say, most people click off the video after a couple minutes, and those people will fail their whole life. Now, I don't want to be too rough. I mean, look, we all have a short attention span, but I really want to emphasize when you're considering moving, uprooting your life, you got to do some research, okay? And you got to visit Florida first several times throughout different parts of the year. And I recommend don't buy property till you live there for a little bit. And just consider all factors. Money is not everything of life. Money's one part of life. Money's important, but it's not everything. Balance is the key. Environment is good. Look, I love Florida, okay? New Jersey also, though, gave me a great career. Even though I paid higher taxes, I would never have the same career if I grew up in Florida. There's no saying that as fact, but I think in my opinion, on average, people in New Jersey have more career opportunity. Now, that may change just like in life. Everything changes, okay? And it's all relative. There's no exact science to life, but I have to be fair. I have to say, honestly, what's the difference? And for those who are fair-minded, I think they have experienced both, I think they understand what I'm saying is fair. Again, each state, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but there are some facts that you cannot miss. There's some facts that I stated that you cannot just not pay attention to because they're a reality of moving to Florida. Hopefully this video helped. If it did, check out on my YouTube channel. I have an entire playlist talking about moving to Florida. And it breaks down step by step things I learned through the 3-year process. It took me 3 years to transition to Florida. And even now I travel as a nomad. If you watch my YouTube channel, you understand that. But check it out. I help you. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Click that thumbs up. Share the video with your friends that want to move to Florida but are doing it emotionally. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace and love.